So go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Todd Winokur. Nice to see all of you today.
Thanks, Todd. When did you start playing paintball, Todd?
Right after high school. It's about 1986.
Yeah. And what field did you play at your first game?
We started at Conquest, which was a field, I guess it was an old A-team set, and very cool. Right out in Malibu. Yeah. Gorgeous place to play, man. Always a nice day at Conquest. Ocean breeze. It's a good place to play.
Cool. And you bought your first gun at Conquest?
I did. Actually, no, my first gun. That wasn't my first gun, but I did buy my first gray Ghost, which was my first better gun.
Yeah. What was your first stock gun that you got?
From Colin. I started with your standard Nell spot with a little extended barrel on it. And
that's what Conquest had as rentals too for a while too.
Yeah, they did. At that time, you could buy a paintball gun on the penny saver. Yeah. Now you can't. That has stopped. You can't do that anymore. But.
So you bought your first kind of new gun from Colin Thompson.
That's right, and he used to have a booth at Conquest, and he was the gun tech there too. Yeah. Just a nice guy. Not a player. Yeah. This guy was just a straight tech. And all he would do was work on guns all day long and try to sell his guns, and he invented his gun during that period. Yeah,
and just think about the guns and any improvements he could make in them.
Yeah.
And probably when if you had a problem with your Ghost, you would probably bring it back to Colin and you would say, I'm having this problem, and what would he do?
He would take it and tinker with it, until it worked right, and if necessary, he'd replace parts or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you know about those guns, there really wasn't that much that could really go wrong. Your valve tubes in the back, would bust out.
Cool. So when you started playing at Conquest, how did you first meet Bassman, Dave Bassman?
Well, he was your host.
Yeah.
And
he was there probably every day.
He was there every day, and he played very often too.
Yeah, he and his wife were probably working their kind of booth that they had.
I want to say, God, I'm spacing on her name right now. Dawn, Dawn. And Dawn used to make little neck guards. That was Dawn's thing.
Yeah.
Little neoprene neck guards, and she would be hawking her neck guards there at the window.
How were you affiliated with Sudden Death? Did you actually play some games with them? You kind of started practicing with them?
I would always play with them. I mean, they were kind of the house team there.
Yeah.
And really played with them more as with them when they went on adventures and things to other fields and stuff. My main buddies were Jerry Bard and Kent Nakanishi. And of course we played with a lot of the old friendly teams back in those days. You remember the Flintstones, Gilly?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Flintstones, they were a good bunch of guys. The Mojave Greens. Remember the Mojave Greens?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those were some cool dudes.
So
the Bushmasters.
Yeah. So for team skirmishes or.
But we'd all just play together. Actually, there was one peak when Conquest closed in Malibu.
Yeah.
All those players went to this. It was called Tag at that moment. It just changed to Field of Fire. It was called Tag prior.
Yeah.
And it was huge. The convergence of paintball players there was big. It was probably 100+ players per day.
So Conquest closed, and so was Fields of Fury also going at that same time?
No, Fields of Fury was after.
Okay, so the two owners hadn't split yet.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there was also other fields in that kind of same vicinity. What else was there? What other fields were right around that area?
Shiloh was something that was going at the time, which was very hilly. They had a great target range.
Yeah, do you remember?
Man,
what city was Shiloh in, or what area?
Pretty nearby where Field of Fire even is nowadays. It was kind of up to 14 in this little gully, and it just had these hills. You would have to race to get to the top of the hills, and you would climb 2 feet, and then you'd slide back 3 feet.
Was there also a Field of Honor right around that same area too? So there was a ton of fields right around that same area.
Southern Comfort
as
well
became one of the fields of
Southern Comfort. When you went to Southern Comfort in the morning, the owner would give
Steve
you
Busick.
a safety speech, and he'd have a 20-ounce beer while he was giving the safety speech. He was total. That was funny, man. And that field had a road going through it, and during games they would yell, "Car!" and all play stopped, and literally you'd be like this, and the car would go right by you, and you'd be like, and then finally the car would pass by. Okay, game on.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that was a fun field.
After Conquest closed, Bassman opened another Conquest.
Yeah.
And Sudden Death was still kind of existing at that time.
Yeah,
probably.
but they were
kind of fading out. They probably went
were.
to 91 or something, do you think? Or maybe 90?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, in terms of going and playing tournaments and stuff, yeah, that kind of faded.
Yeah.
And, the main players, once again, I kept hanging with, the few guys. We played together a lot, just in other fields. It wasn't necessarily, they still had Sudden Death patches, but we were playing with other teams at that time.
Yeah. And then you've also told me before that after you played on Sudden Death, you played with Tour de Force. Is that right?
Yep, I started Tour de Force, helped invent the name even.
Awesome. And what was the significance behind Tour de Force?
Well, we were looking for a strong name.
Yeah.
Something powerful, and we ended up, we were probably just, chatting and looking up things on, at that time there was no internet, whatever, probably an encyclopedia. Yeah. And we found that phrase, Tour de Force, and we thought that was apropos.
Cool. So I always assumed that Tour de Force was more out of the Bay Area, but...
Yeah, this is why I stopped playing with it. We were practicing, and we had probably 4 players here, and the rest of the players were up north. And we were going up there to practice, once a week or, once every couple of weeks. And it was a pretty big trek, and I think I did, 2 tournaments with them and was like, wow, I think you guys should probably find some local players. This is a little tough.
Do you remember what tournaments you played with them?
They were up north, both tournaments.
Yeah, so probably Bay City Opens is probably what you were playing. Cool. All right. Well, that's probably good for today, Todd, and we'll talk again later on.
Nice talking to you.
Thanks.